Today I'm in a really special place because this is the site of an organization that I work with called Seed Savers Network Kenya. And they're really passionate about empowering farmers to save seed and to reclaim seed sovereignty, but also to help farmers have the courage to grow organically and not rely on outside inputs and so on and so forth. What I'm going to do today is to take you on a tour of a fantastic 6-month-old food forest, which is full of ideas and design principles that you can also use in your own food forest design and implementation. So let's jump straight into it. When we started this food forest, we said, okay, let's bring in as much diversity as possible and let's really show other farmers that you can have really diverse ecosystems that consist also of diverse species and cultivars of fruit trees and nut trees. So rather than just focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 fruit trees, let's really focus on bringing diversity into the system. And that obviously has ecological benefits, but it also has a benefit of extending the growing season. Some fruits are ripe during the rain season, some are ripe even after the rain season and dry season. So you always have something to eat, and if you make it a commercial venture, you also have always something to sell. We're growing figs. And these kind of trees we're really just growing to show that diversity is desirable and diversity is possible. So even if a fig tree is not growing usually in this kind of area, obviously it can grow, and this food forest will demonstrate that beauty of diversity. So we are growing a Cordia africana, which is an indigenous tree, and we've made an effort to grow and plant indigenous trees also to show what's possible and to again bring diversity into the system. There's another pollinator, another insectary plant, and the whole idea really is to bring all insects into the garden so that we can have a natural pest control. We're not relying on chemicals or on even organic solutions to control pests, but we are really trusting in nature's process to do the pest control on its own. And the whole idea is that if all insects and all birds and all spiders and frogs and lizards and snakes and all of these are invited into the garden, they'll naturally create a balance, and that balance is going to prevent any explosion of, say, aphids. You'll always have a little bit of pest damage, but you won't ever have a population that's completely running amok. Here we have a view into the food forest that is quite a lot more promising, because the ground cover that we established, mostly beans and cowpeas, they have really taken over these patches, and that's exactly what we want. The strategy that we used in establishing this food forest is to really overstack the ground with nitrogen fixing ground covers, which then can be either used for chop and drop, which obviously provides another layer of protection for the productive trees from the sun. It helps soil life thrive, and they can convert it into humus. And also, whenever you prune nitrogen fixers and leave the roots in the soil, that releases nitrogen that is then available for the productive trees, but also for all the other plants and useful plants that we planted here and that we want to see thrive. So it's just very beneficial to use this strategy of overstacking the ground with nitrogen fixers to an extent that you wouldn't do possibly if you were to do this for simply yield. But we are doing this here to create as much biomass as possible, especially in the first couple of years, so we can really fast track and accelerate the growth of this system. In this particular guild, we'll have nasturtium, which is again a dynamic accumulator, but also a plant that attracts beneficial insects. There's beans, which are flowering, that serves a dual function of attracting pollinators, but obviously it's also useful for bringing nitrogen into the soil. And then a comfrey plant, and also the nitrogen fixers not too far away. And all of these serve different functions, but together they form strong communities. And it's just quite obvious when you work with these diverse systems that the plants really appreciate and really enjoy growing in plant communities rather than on their own. This is a really nice ground cover, and it's almost like a carpet that acts both to protect the soil from the sun, but also to attract beneficial insects. And this idea of multifunctionality is something that we stress quite a lot, as it really helps to make the system more productive and more resilient, because if one plant has many functions rather than just one, most things that you need from a food forest will be fulfilled. We talk about 7 layers of a food forest, and we have the canopy trees, and then we have the understory trees, we have climbers like passion fruit or Malabar spinach, but then we also have bushes and shrubs and berries, and all of these fill up or fill out different dimensions of that space that you have available. And that really helps with maximizing yield and maximizing productivity, and also with maximizing the protection that you need from the sun. And it also creates different ecological niches so that you really attract a lot of life and animals into your garden system. And the other levels or layers are the root layer, so cassava or sweet potato, and then the herbaceous layer, such as annual plants and any non-woody plant, and then the ground covers. So it's just something that we also stress when we design food forests, is to really think about how a forest makes use of all of these available layers and strategically plant to achieve the same result.